Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What's going on, everyone? Lindy end zone in the building for the touchdown, taking the lead for the Eagles, one video at a time. You already know the deal. I also dropped buckets for my Dallas Mavs, but today we back on the channel here doing some post game of the Philadelphia Eagles' first preseason game. Yes, Eagles football is back in Philly, and it's here to stay for a little while. Once we get out of these preseason games and training camp, then the real grind is going to begin in the regular season to see how this team looks. But what is up, everybody? Big Play Slay, and let's go Birds in the house already. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? How y'all doing? So I was on Eagles Uncensored's channel along with Mitch Kofsky. We were doing the live play-by-play over there. That's why my channel was that's pretty much why my channel was quiet, not doing much over here. But I felt like that, I felt that this was a a good opportunity to hang out with y'all in my space and talk about the preseason game. So yeah, we know the Eagles lost 24-16 to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and while the third and fourth string guys did not look all that great, there's still promise to be had with this football team. First things first, Nick Sirianni had this team prepared, and yeah, it's only a preseason game, but the Eagles were pretty damn prepared for this. So you got to give this coaching staff credit for getting their players ready, to play in this kind of setting. They've been used to training camp so far, and through rookie OTAs and walkthroughs, and shorter time lapses in practice. But they went out there. They played like a veteran group. They played like they knew what they were doing. There was limited mistakes, if not any, on the first and second string, other than that illegal formation call on Richard Rodgers, where maybe there was a little bit of there was a little bit in the background there. Is like, Richard's on the field with Tyree Jackson, and he was and he was seeing. Richard was seeing Tyree making some plays with Joe Flacco, and he's like, well, I better slow this down a little bit because I'm still trying to make this football team too. But, who knows? Who knows at that point? But, yeah, man, Jalen Hurts and the first string looked pretty darn good. Now, Jalen Hurts statistically, he looked 3 of 7. 54 yards. He averaged 7, almost 8 yards per attempt. He wasn't out there a whole lot, and most of the first team themselves wasn't out there a whole lot. One of the bigger surprises with the first string being out there was Brandon Brooks. Brandon Brooks was actually out there playing right guard, and he looked pretty good. Sirianni stuck to his guns. He wasn't a coach that was letting most of his veterans rest like we've seen, over the years with Doug Peterson. And if I remember correctly, going into the 2019 season through the preseason, we didn't see very little, if not any, of the veterans playing at all in the preseason. And then they come in week 1 against Washington. The first half, they were very sloppy up until that first bomb from Carson to Deshaun Jackson. Then they kind of seemed to wake up in the second half. But a lot of us were attesting to the fact that a lot of those veterans weren't playing in the preseason, and they were still trying to shake the rust off. So it seems like a different atmosphere right now with Sirianni and letting some of the veterans play so far, just to make sure that they're, they are up to the task, and that they're ready, that they're getting warmed up going into the regular season. And yeah, it's only the first preseason game, but it's a good sign. It's a very good sign. LGB goes, I know we lost, but we actually won with the first team 13-0. Yeah, and I think that's the most important thing. Seeing exactly like where your first team is. That's the most important part about it. just watching Jalen Hurts, how he communicates through the play calling of Nick Sirianni, how he sends the play calls out, and then Shane Steichen delivers it to him in the headset. Very good communication. There was little to no mistakes made. Like I said, they looked like a mature football team on the field, and that's a lot of positivity to look forward to. But again, we're not going to climb on our high horse just yet. There's a lot of stuff to clean up, definitely. But yeah, more so a little bit on the second team and the third team, and then the first string. As far as they go, they're just going to have to continue to work on their chemistry together and work on improving some things. We need to see a little bit more Jalen Reagor. And as far as the other injuries go, John Hightower, this is a missed opportunity for him. Kayvon Wallace, it's a missed opportunity for him with Rodney McLeod being out. He was supposed to be in the first team with Anthony Harris, and then he couldn't go because he was hurt. Andre Dillard is missing out. We just mentioned Rodney McLeod. Who else am I thinking of here? Yeah, Isaac Seumalo still needs to get back into the fold on the offensive line. Stuff like that. What up, Philly girl? In the building. Jordy as well in here too. What's going on, man? Random Anton says, yeah, Big Ben wasn't in either. And yeah, absolutely. And in speaking of the Pittsburgh Steelers in that regard, you also noticed that there wasn't a whole lot of their first team defense in there either, I don't think. But on the other side of that, we did see Devin Bush in there. But other than that, it looked like it was a mix of the first and second string defense for the Steelers. So I mean, trying to measure how the offense looked through Jalen Hurts, yeah, you're going to pick and choose your grains of salt there on how well they did. But one thing I noticed with Hurts was the fact that, and this is a pretty big positive here. If we went back to 2020 and watched Jalen Hurts in the remaining games of the season on how quick he was, to react to the pressure and scramble right away, or play out of structure and try to scramble and stuff like that. How quick he was to just go off of his first read, and if his first read wasn't there, he was looking to run with the ball. Well, that wasn't necessarily the case in this first preseason game. Jalen Hurts played within the structure. He trusted the play calls. He was actually making checks at the line of scrimmage. We noticed him and Joe Flacco making some checks. And like I said, he was just playing in structure. He was standing there confident in the pocket, going through a couple of progressions, seeing who's open and who's not. And he was hitting Zach Ertz on some nice passes over the middle. That was another thing that I've noticed with Jalen. A lot of Jalen's passes last year, he wasn't necessarily favoring the middle of the field too much. And then, in the first couple of series with Jalen out there in the first team offense, he was actually hitting tight ends over the middle. You've seen Zach Ertz get a couple of those. Dallas Goedert, I think, got one. And then he hits Dallas Goedert, on an out route going towards the sideline. A beautiful ball placement. So, I mean, that's a pretty big improvement so far, as with Jalen Hurts picking up the offense and trusting his coaching staff, and how well Brian Johnson seems to be working with him so far. The trust that Nick Sirianni is putting in this guy, and and stuff like that. So I mean, we're off to a good start. We're definitely off to a good start. He was Coach Sirianni was reflecting pretty well. There was a lot of fan engagement there at the link. It was just an awesome atmosphere overall to see uh, to see this football team out on the field again. And, post Doug Peterson era and post Carson Wentz era, and, you make of it what you will to this point. But, man, it was just an awesome energy. It was an awesome energy. BLSG in the house as well. What is up? What is up? Lucas Hallman also. Yeah, appreciate you, man. We're going 10% of the time. 300 is next, and the biggest goal obviously would be 1,000. Philly girl says Rager looked good last night. I was glad to see Elliott not missing field goals. Yes, yeah. So since you brought it up, Philly girl, about Jake Elliott, here's a little nugget. All of last year, Jake Elliott has only made 2 field goals of 40 yards or more. Last night, he made 3 in one game. That's a pretty good improvement. I mean, that's a pretty good improvement, wouldn't you think? And yeah, Jake Elliott talked about how not having a proper offseason last year hurt him a little bit. And I mean, take of that what you will too, because I mean, he's just a kicker. But yeah, I mean, I guess kickers still need to be in a little bit of a rhythm too. So that's a good thing that, in a preseason game, Jake Elliott hit more 40-plus yard field goals than he did the entire season of 2020. So Jake Elliott's even off to a good start. So shout out to him. What's going on? AK, the Eagles Uncensored podcast, saying what's good. Man, the stream last night was good. That's what was good. Man, hitting over 500 views on that stream, unbelievable numbers. But weirdly, last I checked on it, we were only at 1 like. I don't know what the deal was there with YouTube taking likes away. That's pretty bad ratio on the surface. You get that many people viewing in totality with only 1 like. That's a little bit messed up. Night Ink's in the building as well, says what's up. It's been a while. Yes, it has. I'm glad to be back on here. Doing some stuff for my channel now. I'm around. I'm helping my fellow bird family out. I'm around. But we back in the end zone here. We back in my domain. He also says a lot to clean up and a lot to praise. Yeah, but yeah, and it is good at the same time that we're seeing a combination. No team is going to play perfect. Plus the mix between the first team to the third and the fourth team, like that combination. And this is what you want to help better determine the outcome and to eventually finalize your football team to the 53-man roster. Bird Gang 31 in the building as well. What is going on, sir? Man, hitting over 400 subs in such a short span of time. Unreal numbers, man. Shout out to your channel. Shout out to the other content creators in here in general. Eagles Uncensored, Bird Gang, Night Ink's in the house, BLSG, and just keeps going on. Big Play Slay, Let's Go Birds, LGB, like how tight-knit of an Eagles content creator community that we have. Everybody supporting each other, that's what I'm saying. We keep this going. We'll keep this going here. Night Inks goes, Mullins, let's not talk about it. Okay, we won't. We won't talk about Nick Mullins. Since you said it, we won't talk about it. Hurts didn't do too bad at all. Flacco was solid. And yeah, you bring up Joe Flacco. Let's be real here. This was to be expected of Joe Flacco. For as decorative of a veteran as he has been in the NFL, Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl MVP, he can still play. So he's been there and done that. He's been through different offenses. He's seen a lot of different offenses in his time. He's seen a lot of defenses in his time. So this was to be expected by him. With the amount of intelligence that he has for the game of football and playing as long as he has, this was to be expected. And he looked pretty good. But again, there's a lot of expectation for that. But, as the number 2 quarterback, he's also doing his job, and that should be commended. Ninings also says defense was hot first half, but cold second half. The 2s and 3s could barely stop the run, and there were missed assignments. The D line did well though. Yeah, the 2s did a better job of that than the 3s and 4s. Especially when Milton Williams was out there on the defensive line playing that edge rusher position. Jonathan Gannon is trying to make Milton Williams into a versatile, that versatility style, defensive lineman, and it seems to be working pretty well for him because this is a guy, this is a rookie who came in built like a DT, like a little bit, he's on the lighter side of a defensive tackle. He comes in under 300 pounds. He's around 290 or so, but that is a little, that's around the size of both the DT and a defensive end. But him being one of our analytics picks, based on his measurables and everything, and being compared to Aaron Donald in that respect, boy, did he show some of his strength and athleticism, especially on that play where T.Y. McGill got that sack on Mason Rudolph, I believe, that was still in the game. The right guard had to come over and assist the right tackle because Milton was just beating him to a pulp. Phew. I did not expect that sneeze. Sorry about that. But yeah, I mean, how easily Milton Williams beat that right tackle to the punch, and he was just coming downhill like a freight train. You couldn't stop him. The guard had to come over and assist. That didn't work. And being that there was one less guy working on T.Y. McGill, it left space for an easy sack, and Milton ended up getting the assist on that one. If T.Y. McGill wasn't going to get to the quarterback, Milton Williams definitely was, and he took out 2 guys to get to him. That, Jonathan Gannon was very vanilla yesterday with his defense, and and it was primarily 4-3, and there was not a lot of disguising. There was no blitzing or motion before, like pre-snap motion, none of that, or before or after the snap. But for what the first and second team defense was able to do in that type of vanilla structure under Jonathan Gannon, you can only imagine when everything else is added to the mix, how lethal at times this defense can really be. And the defense is not entirely healthy yet. So, there's a lot of optimism to look forward to. Let's see. Let's keep going. BLSG goes, I'm happy the way the starters played. Absolutely. I think a lot of people are happy with how the starters were. Aside from drops by, Jalen Reagor and Zach Ertz that, they definitely should have caught, which kind of skews Jalen Hurts' numbers. So if you factor those 2 drops in, Jalen Hurts would be 5 of 7 instead of 3 of 7. So his numbers would look better face value before you add context. But absolutely, the starters and second team played pretty well. Billy Girl says, I'm not sold on Elliott yet because I've not forgotten what he has done. I was there for that epic field goal to beat the Giants, and to see him cost us games, I'll be content when he doesn't miss. And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, that's what Jake Elliott is being paid to do, is to make field goals. And, especially when you miss cheap shots, like under 25 yards, that's even shorter than the extra point anymore. That's a little bit ridiculous. And, I don't want to put it out there and say that, the lack of an offseason shouldn't have been an excuse for Jake Elliott because he's a kicker. I don't want to be that kind of person, but you have to think there's a little bit of validity with that too, being that that's his sole purpose on the football team is to make field goals. And for him to be as inaccurate as he was last year, yeah, it's yeah, and people in your position, you can't blame either, because it's still a tough pill to swallow to this day. So absolutely, I mean, people can stay there if they want, and yeah, this is preseason, and Jake Elliott is going to have to prove that in the regular season. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Lucas asks, do you think watching last night's game, if it changes my record prediction? No, I still stand on what my record prediction is. I'm still standing with my over and under at 8 games. Best case scenario, we'd go 10-7, and worst case scenario, we'd probably go 7-10 or 6-11. I mean, with the position that we are in right now, especially when you factor in injuries, that adds so much of a fluctuation to the performance of the team overall going throughout the regular season. And regular season, as we know, is a lot different to the preseason, where it's like no holds barred, and people aren't necessarily holding their hits back at times and stuff like that. Like, you're playing to win that football game, and the first string, and it's just first team, and then some second team substitutions, and then we watch that preseason game, and the third team guys and the fourth team guys are out there, and Sirianni and Jonathan Gannon, these guys are trying to figure out what their depth looks like as far as competence there. But yeah, no, I mean, we look pretty damn well so far. We look pretty good, and I'll admit that we do look good. But it is only the first preseason game with a brand new coaching staff. New head coach, new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator, new passing game coordinator, new tight ends coach. There's a lot of new that's not going to necessarily replace the proficiency of the old yet, because they have to develop into their roles. So I mean, I'm on the mindset of I'm not going to put myself on such a pedestal of hope that I'm going to end up being disappointed at the end of the year when the team doesn't meet the high expectations, if I set high expectations, and just be another depressed Eagles fan at the end of the day. So I'm being complacent, and it's just going to go forward from there. Random Anton goes, Rager was meh. Yeah, he was. But he's under the gun. I mean, this is a guy that was a first round pick. I mean, no excuses. Like, you got to show up. How do we think J.J. Arcega-Whiteside feels right now that he was kept in the game for the majority of that preseason game? J.J. Arcega-Whiteside was in there for the majority of that preseason game, and he didn't show anything. Between playing offense and special teams, he didn't show much. So how do you think he feels? I don't think anybody cares about that, because most people don't want Arcega-Whiteside on this team anymore. But yeah, I mean, a second round pick, at least a second round pick, that shouldn't have been taken in the second, is in a worse position than a first round pick. Let's see. I scrolled down too far. I think it's glitched because on the studio it says 19. Okay, that works. Lucas goes, my Hertz video is about to hit 1,000. Yeah, I did notice that. I think it's around I think it's around 920 something. Yeah. Yeah, appreciate you stopping in, Philly girl, as always. We'll see you later as well. We'll see you later as well. Let's see what else is going on in the chat here. Nothing much else. So, with that said, I mean, offensively and defensively, we looked pretty good. If I can pick out anything else without mentioning Nick Mullins, I mean, man, I don't know what got into Nick Mullins to play the way that he did, but at the same time, we did hear rumblings about that it was a possibility for the Eagles to go into this year with only 2 quarterbacks. And now the situation being, the situation could make that turn out to be true. For how Mullins played with the 3rd and 4th stringers. I mean, I don't want to say that there's no excuses, but there's no excuses. This is a guy that came from a well-respected play caller in Kyle Shanahan for that offense of the 49ers. And, he had a lot of time with those 1st stringers over in San Fran. And for him to play the way that he did in this preseason game against, maybe 2nd and 3rd string Steelers defense, if you want to call it that, for him to play the way that he did, yeah, no, that ain't it. That ain't it. Both of those interceptions were just not good. The first interception, after looking back at it, that pick was probably a give and take. I mean, you can look at Mullins on that one, or you can look at the fact that maybe Tyree Jackson did not turn around quick enough. He could have sat a little further under the 1st down marker instead of going over the marker, and make his cut a little bit tighter and turn quicker to the quarterback. I mean, you could say that. But it depends on what his route concept was, how far up he was supposed to go on the route. It all depends on that. But you can also say that Mullins threw the ball a little bit early, and he even pumped it. Mullins even pumped that ball and hesitated before he threw it. And he did the same thing in the second second interception. When he was targeting Adrian Killens on a seam, and he just underthrew it. I mean, the ball placement was so terrible that it was easy for the Steelers defender to undercut the pass. That's a gimme interception. That was a gimme. You just gave that. You gave up your offensive possession away with that throw, and those are the kind of mistakes that you can't make. If Mullins leads Killens into the end zone and hits him in stride, make an over-the-shoulder catch for Adrian to make, that's a touchdown. I mean, there was nobody in front of Adrian Killens, and if we remember, AK-46, Adrian Killens, he's got a little bit of speed to him. So yeah, I mean, if you hit him in stride on that play, lead him towards the end zone, hit him over the shoulder in stride, yeah, that probably would have been a touchdown. And for how much zip on the ball it seemed to have, I don't know. It's still perplexing. It's honestly still perplexing. But other than that, we were hoping that the 1st and 2nd team were going to ball out, and they did. And how can we forget about that Quez Watkins play off of a screen, and he takes it to the house. That was fantastic. Eagles Uncensored goes, Williams is truly the bright spot for all of us, thinking it was a reach, like you said, even though it's one preseason game. He shut my mouth for now. Yeah, I think Milton Williams put a lot of, a lot of his critics on notice. I think he did. Kind of like Brett Coleman talking about it on Twitter. He said at first he had a little bit of curiosity in Milton Williams, coming out of the draft, and watching him in that preseason game. Brett said now he's got my attention. So I mean, yeah, it's just the strength of what he play of how he plays, like using his frame and using his strength to his advantage, and just really throwing some of these offensive linemen and just pushing them just pushing them back like a bulldozer, man. It's like making it too easy. We can only hope that he does this against a first team offensive line, a group of starters. I think that's the hope here going forward, that he can do it against starters in the league, and some of the more seasoned veterans, and go up against them, like we've seen Derek Barnett and Josh Sweat do over the last few years or so. But Milton's off to a great start. He definitely is, and I commend him for that. It's fantastic, and this was one of Jonathan Gannon's top guys in the draft. We remember we remember a little bit of of that heat steaming in the war room, in that draft room, where Howie trying to fist bump and high five everybody on the pick, and one of the other gentlemen, that his name is escaping me right now, but he felt that the pick should have been somebody else, and the only one outside of Howie Roseman seeming to be really ecstatic about that pick was Jonathan Gannon. And JG is making the most of it right now. With Milton Williams being one of Gannon's guys, the GGs, one of Gannon's guys, he's looking good. And just like I mentioned earlier, him turning into a versatile guy along those trenches on the D line. He can play D tackle and he can play defensive end. He had that same kind of versatility in college at Louisiana Tech. He had to play, I think it was defensive tackle. He had to play that position due to injury on the team. He did his job there, and we're seeing it all over again from him switching from the D end spot to, from D tackle to D end. We're seeing it again. And so credit to Jonathan Gannon for getting the most out of his guy right now, and credit to Tracy Rocker getting this guy NFL ready. Eagles Uncensored also goes, I need to know from you, not you, the Eagles fan, if Williams keeps playing the way he does and Hargrave keeps being good, does Cox get traded before the deadline? I don't think so. I don't think Cox is getting traded at the deadline. This is the thing here. Even though you signed Javon Hargrave, and he's going to be a part of the youth of the team going forward, Fletcher Cox is still the biggest staple of that defensive line. Everything on that D line flows through him. So a first-year head coach is going to want to utilize every single tool in his box that he has available to him, which leads to the topic of discussion, whereas like Zach Ertz is still here. It's almost the same principle. You don't want to scrap something if you don't necessarily have to. And yeah, Ertz is expensive and Cox is expensive, but there seems to still be a reason to keep them around for the time being. And I think that's the situation right now, especially that, Ertz and Cox are, two of the greatest veterans on this roster right now, in terms of assisting the development of some of these young guys, and you're going to want to keep them there. You're going to want to keep them there as long as possible. So I think my dog did a quick bark in the background. I'm assuming it has to do with, I think there's service going on in my apartment. We had a bulb go out in our kitchen, and I think the maintenance group is coming in to do some repairs. So if y'all heard a dog, that was the reason for that. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm okay. I understand Cox is as expensive as he is, but I'm okay with keeping Fletch for now. Especially the fact that we want to see how this defense looks under Jonathan Gannon, and we want to be in a spot where he can utilize as much tools as he has at his disposal. So I was going to keep this stream relatively short anyway, instead of babbling on about the same topics here. I think we covered most of what we've seen in the preseason game that was most notable. So from here, I guess, before we close out, we can go over the schedule moving forward. The Eagles have, I think, 4 days of practice in a row coming up. I think the Eagles practice Saturday and Sunday. And then I think the joint practices start with the New England Patriots on Monday and Tuesday. And I'm not exactly sure when the Eagles' next preseason game is. So let me bring that up for y'all real quick here. So the 19th, the Eagles play the Patriots on the 19th. So that's the second preseason game. Okay. So judging by that, if the next preseason game is next Thursday, the Eagles practice tomorrow and Sunday. They have their joint practices on Monday and Tuesday. So I would have to assume that Wednesday is going to be their off day, and then they come back to the link and play the Patriots at home at 7:30. Which I think that one's going to be televised on NFL Network. So that's a positive for some of us that are out of market, that we may be able to watch that game. That includes me. So I'm out of market on that one. But so that looks like the schedule moving forward for the Eagles, as we just brushed it up. And to make a quick recap, Philly Talk Podcast. What up, Philly Mike? You already know the Patriots are next. The Patriots are coming off of a win in their first preseason game against the Washington football team. There's a lot of they got a lot of positivity in themselves there. Some rookies are coming in making plays. I think their rookie running back had a long touchdown. I think it was Ramondre Stevenson. Big dude, like around 230 pounds, and he just took it the distance for about around 70 some yards for a touchdown, and people were amazed by that. For a guy at 230 pounds to move the way he does, that was pretty impressive. That was an impressive touchdown. So the Patriots are coming off of a preseason high, winning their game. So it's going to be a good atmosphere for the Eagles going into the joint practices with the New England Patriots, having that preseason game next Thursday. So yeah, it's a lot to look forward to. But again, I wanted to keep this post game relatively short. We're coming up on the 40-minute mark here, but we got a lot more content coming up with these practices, like back to back for the Eagles. we will have to catch up on the injury status of some players. It seems like guys like John Hightower are going to be behind the 8 ball here. So you got Hightower, you got you got Kayvon Wallace. We necessarily don't have to worry about Isaac Seumalo. I don't know if there's going to be much worry about Andre Dillard. It is a shame that he has yet another injury and that he's not out there, and he's still not in much of a competition with Jordan Mailata anymore. I think the only negative part about that is the fact that we spent a first-round pick on this guy, and we have a 7th-rounder looking better than he is right now. I think that's the worst part of it all. I think no one's complaining about Andre Dillard missing these chances of getting out there on the field and hopefully making the team. Let's just hope at the end of the day he could still be a depth piece, or maybe we can get value for him in a trade. I think that's the only thing that we have left to look forward to with Dillard. And then as far as the rest goes, let's hope Devontae Smith is still progressing pretty well. Same thing for Rodney McLeod and other players alike in the same position that are going through some issues. Davion Taylor, another guy that seemed to be looking better as a football player with the limited experience he had coming out of college from Colorado. So yeah, we got a lot to look forward to in the coming days. I'm going to keep you guys updated on what I see and what's going on for the Eagles. We got some Dallas Mavericks content coming up as well. I got to talk about this Jason Kidd situation and being brought up in the media. So with that said, I'm going to leave you guys at that. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me on this post game for the first Eagles preseason game. They do take the loss to the Steelers 24-16, but overall at the end of the day, we're happy with how the first and second string performed. So that's going to do it for me, everybody. This has been Lindy in the End Zone. I almost stumbled upon myself, but fly Eagles fly, bleed green as always. MFFLs, go Mavs. Take care of yourselves, everybody. I'll see you next time. And that's it.